Welcome to Reverb Roundtable, a weekly show that brings the brightest creative minds and digital producers in sports, entertainment, politics, news, and more to share their stories and strategies that will help you become a better leader and creator. This podcast is hosted by Clark Campbell, the founder and CEO of Reverb Agency, an event media production company where the goal is always to make great events look great online. So you've done in-person events and you've done virtual events. But what do you do now that your audience wants both? And how in the world can you continue to approach problems with curiosity when the problems seem to just keep coming? Especially for those of us trying to put on events with less money, but more expectations. On today's episode, we are joined by Billy Boughey, the founder and president of Elevate Experiences, an event company that has worked with brands like Chick-Fil-A, CocaCola, and Disney, to talk about the future of hybrid events and the importance of maintaining your curiosity, not only for the work, but for the health of your team. Now, onto this week's episode, here's your host, Clark Campbell.
Thank you, Tessa. We are so happy to be, William and I are so happy to be with one of our friends who's going to bring the energy bus. There's also a book about the energy bus.
He's dancing, dude. He's dancing.
I'm ready.
He's ready. His name is Billy.
I'm fired up. I can't even let you get to the intro. I'm so pumped to be here. It's awesome.
The one and only Billy Boughey. Billy, thank you for joining us today, my man.
Man, big time pleasure. Those that are listening in, we want to add a ton of value to you. So thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching or listening. Thank you guys for being here and appreciate you guys having me on.
If there's one person for sure that's going to bring value, it's this guy. I can't not talk to him without being filled with encouragement or knowledge or excitement about something. So get ready. If your seatbelt's not fastening and you're in your car, your seatbelt should be fastened. But if it's not, you need to fasten it. And I'm not kidding, because Billy's about to bring some fire. Billy, tell us where you are real quick. Tessa just gave a little bit of background on what you do and all the things you've done. You're an author. You're an amazing business owner. Where are you? You're in Atlanta. And what do you do? Give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, I'm in the ATL, and I begin every conversation like this with every life has a story. Story is so powerful. I know from knowing both of you and knowing what you guys are up to that you believe in that as well. But I believe that every story should be told in the natural elements with which it's based. So my story, grew up, parents divorced when I was 5. I was insecure. I had a stuttering problem, really afraid to be in front of people, really nervous to be in crowds, but I could throw a baseball really hard. So I did that through high school and college. Got a scholarship to Auburn, played baseball for the Phillies, got to throw the ball really, really hard, strike some people out. And then eventually they hit the ball really, really far, and they told me I couldn't play there anymore. So stopped playing there. But in the middle of all that, came to faith my freshman year of college, started freestyle rapping, started playing guitar, started realizing that I had a gift to communicate and encourage people. And I think that Truett Cathy said it well, is to say, how do you know if someone needs encouragement? It's if they're breathing. And so I just kind of made that my life mantra, is that my story is about encouraging others in the authentic story that I have. So fast forwarding from there, father of 4, married to an amazing woman named Jen, started a company called Elevate, where we're a brand experience agency where we help people tell their story and create events that people love. And that's what I get to do. I'm in the ATL. That's where I dwell. And man, excited. That's me.
Amazing.
The ATL, that's where he dwells.
We're actually going to talk about events today because we both of our organizations, our companies, kind of play in the same arena. Billy does something super exclusive and niche that just blows up events in a really great way. We tell more stories. We're probably a little more niche on the telling of the stories at the events on photo and video. But Billy, we want to help the people in the world today understand why in-person versus virtual, which creates this hybrid thing, is necessary, and the pros and cons of each. And here's the thing. If you ask anybody about virtual versus in-person events going into the middle of 2021, second half, if you ask 5 people, you're going to get 5 different answers. So we decided to ask a 6th person, and that's Billy. So we can get a 6th answer. But this one is the one you should pay attention to, because he knows the most, I think, about the in-person experience, because that's what he's built his business off of, and the virtual experience, which he has really, really amped up in 2020 and 2021. But Billy, this conversation with us, me, you, Will, and a couple of our friends, started on Clubhouse, which we'll talk about. Tell us your thesis on hybrid events going into summer and fall of 2021.
You guys ever seen the movie Toy Story?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this moment in Toy Story 1 where Woody and Buzz are in the middle of the street. They've got a rocket strapped to Buzz's back. They're about to light a flame and go see Andy, who's their owner, right?
Yeah.
Well, this huge bus flies by, blows out the flame, and there's this moment where Woody's laying on the ground crying.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what March 2020 was for me, and probably most of April as well. And so if I was really honest, most of us, and if you're listening to this, if you're in the event space, you understand that when March 11th happened and the World Health Organization announced that, hey, this is a pandemic, most of us had to look up on our phone, what is a pandemic? That's what I did on Google. I don't know what that means. Oh, that's not good. So I was like Woody, but Buzz's helmet leans over and away, and it captures the light through his shield. It starts burning his hand. He realizes that's what can light the actual fuse, and that's what goes. And I think all of us have realized that we have to do that if we're going to stay in this gathering of people space. My whole career has been based on three things: energy, community, and connection. Energy, community, and connection. And so if I had a Venn diagram, I would draw that for you. But that's kind of my thesis when we create event experiences. But Justin Timberlake said it best at his concert at the 2020 Experience in Atlanta. He was playing Drink You Away, which was one of my favorite songs. And he took his in-ear monitor out, and somebody said, "Justin, we love your music." And he said, "Thank you. I don't want my music to get in your ears. I want it to get in your blood."
Go ahead.
And so there's a difference in virtual, hybrid, and in-person events of deciding, do you want your content to get in someone's ear or do you want it to get into your blood?
Great example.
Like, do you want it to be a part of their metaphysical bodies and like their heart and like really change what they're up to? And so for me, clients are literally across the board. And when I ask the question, I don't even know their comfort level. First of all, it starts by looking at, do they want to have a mask on inside or outside when I'm first meeting with them? That tells me kind of the direction I'm going to go with my sales meeting. So as an event professional, we can do all three of them. We've done some really great hybrid events, which is obviously a mixture of both. How do you engage? We've done obviously great live events for years, but virtual events for us is, it's been really fun because I'm standing in our studio where we produce a lot of our events. And I need like to be able to hear things, feel things, and see things, but I want that be elicited through the screen. And the phrase that I've used the most is, you don't have to be in person to do something personal. So every event we create, we're like, hey, what personal can we do for the audience that's going to make them feel connected to your brand? You know, because your brand, your logo, your image, you want them at the end to say, how do they feel about, what are they thinking about at the end? So I don't have a great answer for which one's best. Every client's very different. I would know
that's the right answer. That's the right answer.
We lost $2 million of revenue 1 week after the pandemic. Like, so I need some counseling. So y'all can help me with this. Like, literally, we lost $2 million of revenue.
Yeah.
On the 18th, between the 18th and the 24th of March. I remember sitting on my couch listening to CNN and Fox News and like, and hearing that Mark Zuckerberg wasn't going to have a live event at Facebook until 2022 and going, okay, like this is a really bad time to be in the live event business.
Yeah.
But you get punched in the mouth. What do? You have to get back up. So it's just been a decision. We ended up doing 97 events last year, virtual and hybrid. And we had our best January in company history in 2021 of this year. So things are turning.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize we need community, we need each other. And so half of those have been virtual, about 25% have been hybrid, about 25% have been live. So it's been an interesting mix.
So let's just jump right into this question. What's your prediction? I know what you said in the sense of every client's different. Do you think, and I'll tell you mine real quick so I can open up the can of worms here, and we'll also probably feel similar or maybe a little different. I think the humans, the customers, are going to demand the in-person because we just got to get out. But the corporations are almost going to push back and say it's too big of a liability. Oh, y'all hold up. But the customers are going to find the cracks. They're going to go to the in-person events because they're going to. A certain demographic is going to be vaccinated and they're going to be like, I feel good, I can go. And the other demographic is going to be like, I don't care, I just got to get out. So I feel like the customer is going to find the cracks and go to the live events, and the corporations that don't want to do it are going to maybe get left behind a little bit. You tell me what you think, Billy. That's what I think. Yeah,
it's a decade of personal responsibility. I think with racial tension, presidencies, elections, insurance companies, it's personal responsibility. So you look at how comfortable do you feel going to something? I think I love supply and demand. I love that loop that continues to happen. I love demand's going to rise for these live events. I miss them. I miss going to conferences. I miss shaking someone's hand. I mean, goodness, if you go to our YouTube channel at Elevate, you'll see our top performing video is a challenge we do at events called the High Five Challenge, where we challenge you to get as many high fives as you can in 30 seconds. Right. And so I miss those moments. It's interesting to see how many people that have gotten the vaccine that view themselves as superhuman now. It's almost like I don't know if you've noticed this, but I was at an event last week where like 80 people had gotten the vaccine and they're like, oh, cool, whatever. I'm like, no, you probably should still like wash your hands and do the stuff that you normally do. But like, don't go like French kissing everybody at the event. Like that's weird, like they didn't do that. But it's interesting to see like this personal responsibility of the insurance companies, or the president of insurance companies saying, how much liability are we going to put on the event venue if someone comes up 3 days later with COVID-19? How much responsibility are we going to take? How much are they going to take? So I just think it's a decade of personal responsibility of what do I really feel about racial tension? What impact am I making on my community? When I go to that event, am I going to go to something that I don't necessarily believe in everything they believe, but I go to it because I believe in community? So I just think people are going to have to examine their own heart and their own intent more than ever. I think we should have always been doing that, but I think more than ever there. And then, as you mentioned, the demand is going to be super duper high. I'm going to be at live events. Like just for me, like I'm probably on a far end of the pendulum, and I don't want anybody mad in the comments, but like I'm good. Like I'm ready. So
if you look back to March and April of 2020 for us, we had one really big, totally virtual event coming right out of the swing of all of the events dropping off. And I vividly remember having so many conversations at that event that were like, oh, we're so excited for next year when we're going to be back in person and we're going to be doing like that again. And Clark and I literally just came from a meeting. It's been a year, and we just came from a meeting where we're doing the exact same dang thing over again, and it's fully virtual. Now, of course, is that eventually going to take like a shift and a pivot at some point to go back to at least a hybrid? Of course, absolutely. But I remember a year ago when we all thought we were going to be back to virtual like that. So I think it's going to be really interesting because there's going to be people, like probably every person on this call, that's like so ready to be back in person at events, whether it's concerts, whether it's conferences, and all of the virtual events that have happened over 2020. We want to be back to the in-person on 2021. But I think there's probably also going to be a lot of people that are still going to be hesitant going back in. There's definitely going to be a grace period where a lot of people are going to have to do a both and approach if they want to capture all the demographics available to them.
But I think the important part is that's okay, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if someone's still hesitant, we shouldn't judge them for being hesitant, and 100%. The hesitant shouldn't judge the ready.
I agree.
100%.
But and that's where the personal. That's I think where the level of frustration increases for me. It's like if you're ready,
Billy just solved politics in that one sentence. He just solved all of politics.
He brought empathy. Wait, what?
We bring politics. We bring politics into human, and like politics are not human. It's like what we 100%. Think about stuff. Let's just be more human to say there's empathy for someone that has a grandparent that lives in their house, that they don't want to go out and get exposed to COVID-19 or COVID-24 or whatever is the latest thing. They want to be comfortable at home. We need to provide a resource for them to be able to experience our brand in that unique way.
Exactly.
And they don't need to judge us, and we don't need to judge them. Let's just be grateful for the. I mean, that sounds so basic, and I'm not trying to kumbaya this thing, but I agree. It's the novelty has worn off of, cool, we're going to do this virtual event. Like I'm starting to get in my second virtual events with clients.
Right.
And it is a bit like, all right, and we just did a 5K this weekend where, I mean, the client raised more money. They raised $175,000, had 650 runners that ran virtually. And last year they had much lower than that. They had even more engagement on their virtual fitness event. So
that's crazy.
The money doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, wait, hold on. Do they love being here? Do they not love being there? Do they love the convenience? There's not the energy.
Yeah. So. You're talking about supply and demand, and that's what's so interesting is the market's kind of primed for both, and it's not an either or, it's a both and. Not only are the clientele there for both, there's people that want to be in person, but there's also people that want to still experience virtually, but the technology and abilities there as well, because we've been primed through all the last year to be able to elevate the experience that they're having, whether it's online or in person.
So, Will, how many new platforms have you learned this year? Like how many new
my
apps or
gosh.
platforms because of this?
Oh man.
I'm a part, I follow a database. It's a Notion database. So it's basically a giant Excel spreadsheet that's always ever living that people can add to of just virtual event platforms. And we're like past 200 platforms. I think it was like literally 25, 50 at the beginning of the year. And so many companies were like, let's create our virtual event platform. I think we're up to like 200 right now. And honestly, I was in a meeting yesterday with an organization that we partner with a lot that was talking about like our custom variation and our custom spin on a virtual event platform. Like it's endless. There's so much potential and ability there.
And it's a bit exhausting, right? It's like
so tiring.
because now the conversation with clients a year ago was, hey, let's talk about AirMeet, let's talk about Zoom, let's talk about Hop-In. You know, great, let's pick one. Now it's, oh, have you heard of?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in where I don't become the expert anymore because the newest tech company has created something. And it makes me feel a bit insecure. I have to go, and I want to be defensive to say, no, it's probably awesome. But hey, we've done 20 events with this platform.
Correct.
And it performs super well. We can engage with your crowd. I would love to try that. And we've had clients that have said, no, we're going to use this. And then we're put in a quandary to say, we've never used it before. Like y'all, I had to give my first, this is painful to say, I had to give my first refund to a client because an event didn't go the way they wanted to.
Dang.
It's painful.
You know why?
Because they used the
It was on a platform and in a location that we didn't know or understand. And we spent hours and hours of working on it. But you know what happened? One is the internet went down for about 3 minutes at that location they wanted to have it at, which we suggested they don't have it there.
Yep.
And the second thing was the platform didn't do the one niche thing to be able to bring in a video that we needed to bring in at the right time and just didn't do it. So it's so hard because as a you know this as an event producer producing content, you need your machine. I need the way that I do it. Like if I'm going to bring you what you saw in that highlight video that I promised on my sales meeting, like I need to be able to do this.
You got to.
And you want me to do this? Like there's no way.
Billy,
you know?
softball question for you. And I appreciate you being authentic. And we all have those moments. And hopefully clients will understand that in the age of a pandemic. Softball question, big question for you, Billy. There are teams with your clients. Your client teams are probably exhausted and maxed because of the virtual things they've had to create. But if you think back to 2019, they were maxed and exhausted in the in-person of events, creating stuff. Now you're talking about this hybrid where they have to do both. And I can't imagine the exhaustion some of our clients feel. They're like, I killed myself on the in-person and then the virtual. I cannot do both. What do they need to do? Hire Elevate? What do they need to do? What's your advice to them?
They need to hire Elevate. That's a great answer. But I'm noticing, and you guys have seen this, people want both, but they want to pay for half.
Yeah. Bump. But their budgets went up. They raised more money with their virtual.
So listen, like I'm seeing this, like think of all the flights, think of all the food, think of all the venues, all the things.
Right.
And all that money seemed to just disappear. And now it's like, we have this. And just about everybody has turned into an event producer as well.
I don't know.
You guys know this? Everybody's turned into a content producer, an event producer. And so we almost have to like show again why we do what we do, where in live events, we kind of got a little bit lazy and lethargic, I would say, because we're just really good at it and did
complacent.
it. So it's been a good call to just get better. But I've had a lot of people say like, hey, we just don't have the budget to do both. I'm like, well, you're going to alienate one or the other. So you need to just really, really clear. We're going to have a live event experience. We're going to record the content. We're going to send it to you later. And have the 5 to 10 people that are pissed about that. Or we're going to attempt this half-baked, half-paid-for hybrid event that's going to be okay, but your live
Brands
people are going to go,
lose.
Yeah, your people that are going to go, yeah. Or you're going to produce this really great virtual event and you're not going to have that live interaction. So I would say don't get caught in the middle of all that. Like decide, and let's go rock that. Let's put the budget toward it. Let's put the ideas towards it. So yeah, that's my best softball answer.
Do you think there's a percentage of those events where it's they have the budget, they have the demo to do both and?
I think the best companies that want to grow their brand and create revenue in 2023 have to do that. Like I challenge everybody I talk to is look at your budget for 2019 and 18.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your experience creation for your brand, the activations you did, the social media you produced, like all the things. Let's lump that into that. And now let's take that chunk of change and let's bring it into 2021
That's good.
What are you going to do with that? Oh, Billy, well, we got cut. Okay. Well, they cut it. They're still wanting the same production on double the things you need to do. What do you do with that? And so I would say if you're a business professional listening to this, or you're responsible for budgets, as agencies, we're doing our very best to produce more with less money. We're doing our best, but ultimately it's twice the work. It's twice the amount of things. It's thinking through not just Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clubhouse, stories, platforms. It's and all the other live experience and the Zoom world or the streaming. Like it's a whole nother category of things that
I'm getting anxious just listening to this right now.
Well, y'all, as much as I love events, as much as I love what I get to do for a living,
Go ahead.
Man, the last 14 months have been hard.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
Clark will remember this. I vividly remember a spot in, we're kind of getting our bearings in 2020. We're helping a long-term client of us put on an event, and we sit down in the room with their team. There's probably 20, 25 people in this meeting. And it's like, okay, guys, we put on this in-person event. We're putting on this virtual event now. There's a whole lot of people involved in this. Let's go around the table and let's say everyone's role, everyone's position, their name, what they're doing. And we go around the room. And mind you, this is a full in-person event team turned virtual. And I just remember hearing everyone say they do just about the exact same thing. It was like everyone is pretty much over quote unquote digital and marketing for the digital and marketing event. And I remember side texting Clark and a friend of ours that I'm pretty sure we'll all know, Dave Adamson, and going, hey, I might have fell asleep. I don't know if someone slipped something into my coffee at the beginning of this, but did I just hear everyone say the exact same thing on repeat for the last 20 people? Does everyone think they're doing the same thing for this? And they're like, yes, no one has any idea what they're doing.
And I think people have new titles, right? There's these all new titles in the virtual event space, and all I can say is digital. Like you don't know how to say it. So even in our sales process of me communicating how many people it takes for us to put on a virtual event, their perspective is, oh, it's just you turn on a camera, and you do
Billy,
it.
Can't you just do it? Why can't I just pay you to do it, Billy?
Yes, but it will not be as good as having the 9 people that I need. You need 9 people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember when you needed all that tech crew to put on all the audio, video, and lighting in your in-person event? It's very similar.
Yep. So I need you guys to help the production world by producing some sort of video that demonstrates that. We could collaborate because I'm passionate, guys. I'm like, hey, watch this video. This will show you how the live event transfers over. So.
And for everybody that's listening right now, if you've stayed this long, listen, this is a counseling session for a couple of minutes.
I needed this. I needed a counseling session. So I don't know if it's adding any value, but this is helping me. So
we talked about all these problems for people in the event industry. Okay, what's like our step moving forward? What's the solve? I know a lot of people that do listen to this podcast are people that are in similar lines of professions to us. So they might not be the virtual event producer, but they're doing content for the event, or they're doing a portion of it. We've talked about the complexities and the fact that it's probably a both and moving forward, but probably budgets for only half of that. Like what's the solve, or what's the plan? What's our next steps walking in?
Go get a remote control car.
Got it. Done. I'm in.
So Tesla? I went back to my roots. I used to race remote control cars as a kid, and I got away from it. And during the pandemic, I bought these 2 really fast Traxxas remote control cars.
That's awesome.
And my son and I have gone out and just bashing them against walls and jumping over skate parks and racing and whatnot. It has been the greatest thing. So I say that a little joking, tongue in cheek, but I think self-care has never been more important than it is right now. From a faith perspective, if you pray. Yeah. If you don't journal or haven't journaled in a while, pick up a pen and even if it's just one line, begin to scribe out emotions, thoughts, and feelings, because your best creativity comes from your most broken, honest moment for who you are. And we've had a lot of broken, honest moments. We've been challenged with racial reconciliation. We've been challenged with police violence. We've been challenged with politics. We've been challenged with events. We all have that. And so, the mental health side of the event space is something I've become even more passionate about, because I've just had to take a breath. So I would say that's my biggest challenge. And don't blow that off if you're listening. Oh, whatever. No, for real. What did you do this week that brought you life outside of the stuff that you do? For me, changing diapers doesn't bring me life, but I have a 1-month-old, so that's what I'm doing. Hanging out with my kids, I like it, but it doesn't totally bring me life. If I'm honest, I'm just keeping it real.
Sure.
But I need to like go race your remote control car. I need to go for a run. I need to do something for me. And so I think we need to be a bit more selfish in our culture. Sounds opposite. I did that for dramatic effect. Be more selfish for like what you need, because then you're going to come to your clients with fresher ideas.
Yeah. It's good.
I love when our clients come. Like, I don't call ourselves an event company. I call ourselves an idea company. Like, come to us with your idea. We're going to help. We're going to help execute it. So yeah, I would say that's the best answer I have. Is over this season, if you're an event professional, if you're still in the game, I have tons of friends whose businesses have gone under. You guys know people that have had event companies that are no longer there. If you're still in the game, you're still fighting, or someone that didn't quite make it through the fray, just know that you're valued. And I want to encourage you that like there is a story out in front of you that's going to be better than the one that's been told if you take that moment and pause and think about it. So that's my best advice.
That leads to another amazing topic. You're an author. You talk about culture and energy and leadership and developing healthy teams that help your clients win and help your teams win. If I look back over 2020 and 2021, I was optimistic. I don't know where I got the optimism from. I was very optimistic, even from the very beginning. I had hints of fear and doubt, but I was very optimistic. But we had to work so hard on things we weren't used to working on. I often describe it. It's like you used to build houses, and then all of a sudden you had to start building schools overnight, like buildings. Like it's like just they're totally different things, and so it's exhausting. I was excited. There was tons of work coming in that we weren't expecting, but it was exhausting. And keeping the energy up, Will is always like kind of nudging me like, hey, Eeyore, let's go Eeyore. Does my wife call me that, or do you call me that, Will? I don't remember.
I think your wife started it.
Your wife started it. So I have to, but I'm like, I feel like I'm charismatic, but then anyways. So when you're exhausted, you have to get the Eeyore out of you, and you have to like keep the team going. You wrote a book. Maybe it talks about this. How did you keep your team alive? How did you keep them from collapsing? Even into 2021, like what are you doing to keep your team healthy?
Yeah. So there's so many things that ran through my head when you were asking that question. So I wrote a book called Culture Reconstructed, and my second book comes out soon. I'll have a release date yet, called Start from Scratch.
Okay.
And so in both of those, I started just with the premise of how do I write something that people are going to read and go, I can actually do something with it. And so the Culture Reconstructed idea it came from when I was playing Lincoln Logs with my son. You guys know Lincoln Logs, these different strip sizes of wood. Mm-hmm. You put them together, you build a house, and it's cool. Well, my mode, because I'm a 7 Enneagram, I'm a 4294 on Colby, I just sort of start. I'm like, whatever, just build. My son separates all the pieces out. He sees what he's working with, and then he builds it strategically. And I love watching him build because it's so different than me, right? So
maybe I'm a 7,
I've had to adopt.
Maybe I'm a 7.
I've had to adopt a little bit of what my son's perspective of building. And so with my team, it's learning to have these deep breath moments. We call some of our conversation, all right, guys, we're going to have a whirlwind conversation. Like we've named some of our conversation. All right, whirlwind. Let's talk about it. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. All right, great. And let's pause. Let's have a deep breath conversation. Hey, let's catch up on things. So I think identifying conversations, like labeling them specifically what you're doing, because I think it all can get caught in the whirlwind, but I think it gives your team a collective breath when you can call and name a certain conversation, a certain thing. But I'll be honest, like we were a team of 21, we're down to a team of 7. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say we've saved the team. It's been hard. We've lost some amazing team members. We've not had to let anybody go, but there's been some really cool opportunities that have opened because of the pandemic. And like team members come to me and say, hey, Billy, here's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, hey, I don't know where events are going. You need to go take that job. So it's been the most humbling, raw, this sucks sort of year. But at the same time, I'm so grateful for all the team members that have been a part of what Elevate's done and accomplished. And I can see a path for us growing again, but it's been not me spinning it. Oh, everything's great. It's awesome. All right, guys, let's get more excited. It hasn't been that. I believe what Tony Robbins said so much. He said, your emotion affects your emotion. I'll never forget sitting in one of his seminars and hearing that and going, yeah. So Eeyore, like jumping jacks, movement, push-ups, clapping your hands, dancing, like actually moving your body. It helps so much. And I think in the virtual world, we're sitting still. So even in our team meetings, we would pause and have a 30-second dance party, 60 seconds of jumping jacks. Like we would intentionally put those things in, not just be silly, but to like get our bodies moving and refresh our minds again. So that's some of the things that we did. But it's been really cool. I've sold a lot of books. So those of you listening, if you want a really good basic book on how to like
pitch it,
build culture, go check it out.
Dude, that was really good. First off, I also can get very Eeyore. That's not just a Clark thing. And we've literally been talking in the past several days. We're going into a really big project right now. There's a lot going on. Somehow we had a year out vision that this was coming, and it's still down to the last week to get it all in, which is just amazing. And we had a really big shoot the other day, and balls were dropped. Things were not planned as effectively as they should, but we pulled it off. It came together beautifully, actually, really effectively. And when Clark and I kind of recapped with it at the end, it was 100% just because we spoke the event into existence. Like we spoke the shoot into existence. It was all about just the energy that was brought, the scripting. We were writing the scripts for the session following the one we were filming. So there was a Google Doc. We had a writer on the side that was writing the next session. Clark was wrangling these 40 college students to get energy out of them.
I think college game day. We had a college game day set with college students during a pandemic.
And it was the energy that was brought to it, because it shouldn't have worked. It shouldn't have happened because what was supposed to happen on the front end didn't. But the energy that was brought was what made it happen. And we kind of recapped on it that night, and it was like, we have to sustain that energy moving forward so that we can actually see this come to fruition, because the planning, we know that's not going to happen effectively. So we just have to extend the emotion and energy in order to see it come to fruition. But Clark, I think we now have to start running laps around the quad here to make sure that our motion translate into the emotion.
Yeah, you got to put it on the grams, man. I want to see some laps today. Make sure you hashtag Billy told me to run. Make sure you put that hashtag.
Billy told me, hashtag Billy told me to run. Got it.
So putting what you said together with, I got a chance to do my first TED Talk last year, I guess 2019, December.
Heck yeah.
And it was called How to Lead Like a Freestyle Rapper. And I gave 3 points, and I gave 5 rappers and 3 points. And the first point that I gave connects so much well with what you said. I call it the Curious George effect. I love Curious George, and what reads my kids. And I love because he's kind of just able to see around the corner. Like he doesn't see things 15 off. He's just disruptive enough. And, the man in the yellow hat comes back and gets George, and like everything's okay. But the Curious George effect is, like, sometimes the best ideas are those ones that are right there in the moment. But it could be that you were lazy and didn't finish the project in time and you had to scramble. But it could be that some of those best ideas were there. So are you being curious? Are you able to muster curiosity where you are, or do you need to be in the moment to create that curiosity? So it's, I think the Curious George effect has served me a lot because, like this interview, I'm best when I'm just sort of off the fly and just kind of just go full speed. If I have a script, it's a bit tougher for me. So you got to kind of decide what kind of Curious George effect can you create when you need to plan, or what do you need to have in the moment?
Billy, I need your help desperately. I am your son. I lay out all the Lincoln logs before I start building, and there's supposed to be an order based off of size, so I know what goes where. What's your advice to me on how I can embrace that Curious George effect without losing my mind?
Yep. Great. And I'm going to help you. So those of you listening in, I want you to hear
counseling session.
Counsel us.
Billy counsels Will.
Well, here's the deal. Like we all, me, each of you, all of you listening, watching, we all think that our way is the best way, regardless of whether we say that or not. Like we just do.
I say it.
Right. Right. Understanding that your modus operandi, that sounds really cool, but it's not. It's just like your volition of will, or like how you do stuff, how you initiate action. There's a problem to be solved. How do you do it? Is so different on everyone, and it's not a character flaw. I think we take someone who appreciates creativity and like does it last minute and like that sort of thing as a character flaw, and it's just not. I think that would be my first advice for you, is to ask yourself, like, do I view this as a character flaw? Why did they not do it? Well, it could be that like you operate in your gifting, and I'm not saying that person can be lazy, but maybe you allow them space to do it the way they do it. There's an example of an event we did recently before the pandemic. We were in the same room together, and I had 2 young ladies that worked with me that I just said, hey, can you guys move these chairs? And they moved the chairs over to the side of the room. One person was like you, Will, and like when they moved the chairs, they strategically like moved the chairs in rows. And the other girl, like literally was just chunking the chairs over to the side. Based on my assertion based on my instruction, based on what I said, move the chairs. So my question for you is, Will, who did it correctly? Person one or person two?
Hey, we got chairs moved. Chairs were moved.
Right. And so that, I think a lot of us will give an instruction. A person does it the way that they naturally gifted to do it. And then we judge them based on the way that we would have done it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think we just be aware when we have a certain instruction, hey, I need this, and this. If they don't do it, then they're just lazy or they didn't follow instructions. But if it's just you gave an instruction and they did it their way, we have to figure out what level of angst we're going to have towards that. So it was really fun moment to look at both of them. And, the girl that threw the chairs got it done faster, but we had no idea how many chairs it was. The girl that put them in stacks, we could read them, but it took her longer to do it. So it's a question of when we give our instructions, I believe more than anything, we just need to put the mirror back on ourselves, put the finger back on ourselves. Like, how can I lead through this? So hopefully that gives a little bit of a grid of how I think about different personality types.
Colby, I am interested. So tell me what we need to know about Colby.
We're Enneagram folks, so help us understand Colby.
Yeah, Enneagram is amazing. So there's 3 parts of your brain. There's stuff you think, there's stuff you feel, and there's stuff you do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so every personality assessment is based on one of those 3 things, right? IQ test, Enneagram, emotional intelligence, Myers-Briggs, there's a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. There is not much research or assessments based on your do. Like the stuff you actually, problem in front of me, I'm not thinking about it, what do I actually do? And that's what Colby measures. So the lady that created it, her name is Kathy Colby. Her dad created the Wonderlic assessment. So she comes with a lineage of assessments. She is one of the most brilliant researchers, zany, awesome lady. I've been with her twice to like her weekend kind of training things. And what she would say is it's the freedom to be yourself. It's the freedom to solve problems and do things the way that you would do them. So we got a chance to take, you guys have heard of the group Matchstick in Atlanta. Yeah, we get to work with Matchstick and like take their whole team through this journey. It was so fun to watch how some of their designers and their brand producers and what they were doing go, oh my gosh, you weren't trying to piss me off. That's just how you naturally do it. Right. And it's some of the sweetest moments of all time because I'm like, oh, it's so awesome. Now it didn't fix it, but it gave perspective. And so Colby measures 4 things. It measures your fact finder, how much data you need. It measures your follow through, how many systems do you insist on your work. Quick start, how innovative and how are you just on the fly. Yep. And the last is, do you think things in your head or do you need to build them? So those 4 are the grids, and it's an incredible assessment. It's been really fun over time to help various groups with it. So that's the quick.
So how can Reverb and how can others listening to this podcast or watching, how can they contact you to hire you to take them through a Colby assessment?
The best spot to go is billybspeaks.com. billybspeaks.com. So it's got some videos there. It's got some like video testimonies and whatnot. But at the bottom it says, hey, fill this out. Love to hear more. And you just put in what you're looking for. And that's kind of the best spot.
Okay, we're doing it. Somebody right now, go to it. We'll put it in the show notes too. Well, hey, just for the sake of time, Billy, you've just dumped piles of wisdom in here with us. We want to take the show out here with Clubhouse as a tease to a future conversation that we're going to have with someone on your team. You'll hear about that soon. But Clubhouse, you're always in Clubhouse. Like every time I open my phone, bing, 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 Billy, bing, bing. Like I'm getting bings from Billy about Clubhouse. I don't even know if that's the thing. Just sound like a good rap. Billy, tell me about Clubhouse, elevator pitch, and why we should be paying so much attention to it, whether we are content creators on Clubhouse or we're just consumers on Clubhouse.
Yeah, Clubhouse is a drop-in audio app. And so those of you that are on it or hadn't quite got on it yet, it's basically a place where you can drop into conversations. You can jump on stages and you're not distracted with ads. You're not distracted with DMs. You're not distracted with pictures. It is literally just audio. Mm-hmm. And so producing content, you got to be really good at saying words. And so if you're going to produce content on Clubhouse, you can't get by with a great font or a really good background or a snazzy video. It's got to be how much gumption, how many bars do you actually have to add value to people? So for us, we have a Clubhouse room that's called Mic Drop Events, which is also the name of our podcast. And we've got, a couple hundred people that are a part of that. When we jump into a room, we have conversations. And really Clubhouse is not about you waxing eloquently about how great you are. It's really just bringing people up and hearing from them. Mm-hmm. And then you jump over to the DM on Instagram or Twitter. You send a DM and you connect further from there. So for us, it's been a great lead generator. So if you're an event producer, social media, I would jump on there and just jump into rooms. Like on Wednesday nights, it's Wildin' Out. You guys remember this TV show on MTV? It's a freestyle rap Wildin' Out room. So I jump on there and I get on stage and I wild out with like the people that are on the show. Like, and I've had conversations with Grant Cardone, and I've been on stage with like these amazing people, like actually talking to them. And I'm like, wait, this doesn't happen. So I don't know how long this window is of that, right? I don't know if it's going to be a year or 2 years, but I'm seeing some sustainability. And for me, I jump on there a couple times a day to kind of hear what's going on. I've got certain rooms that I like to, be a part of and have conversations on. So I would say, it's an invite only app. So if somebody invites you, make sure you, click I'm in, but use it wisely. I mean, the first probably month I was on there about 8 to 10 hours a day.
Wow.
I would like literally have my AirPods in and I would be listening. People would invite me up to stage. I would say something that would add value. I'd increase by 20, 50, 100 followers, like really, really quickly on there and add value. People would DM me. Like if you DM me the word speak on Instagram, I'll send you my free course called More Than a Microphone, which is a communicator course for people that are MCs. And so I've probably given away 300 or 400 of those courses just from that moment, which leads to, emails, which leads to more sales, more follow-up, that sort of thing. So that's the snapshot of how we use it.
Okay. Helpful. I don't know how you do it. I'm literally flabbergasted with how you can spend 8 to 10 hours on it. And
my wife said, hey, like, we're going to have to stop the evening clubhouse stuff. So it was a momentum thing. And right now I'm still on it during the day, but there are times where it's like, hey, like, it's like, we need to talk right now. Take the AirPods off, like no more clubhouse, but like the momentum of sales, so I married really, really well. Like she's incredible. She's like, hey, what do we need to do to keep the business afloat? Wherever you're going to get leads, where's the attention? How do we tell them about what we're doing? So we viewed it as that, but I'm kind of settling into where I'm getting off the drug of Clubhouse being on there for that long, but I still really, really enjoy it.
You are you're an innovator, you're a leader, you're a thought leader. I will credit you with sparking so much creativity in our minds as a company, Billy. You have, for whatever it's worth, whatever little pennies it's worth, sincerely, you have done so much to challenge us, to make us go, hey, we need that kind of energy. We need that kind of culture. And I know it's not perfect. I know it's hard behind the scenes where you are. I know it's not greener on the other side. I just want you to know what you've done for us. So thank you, sir.
Cool. Well, thank you, man. I love what you guys are doing. It's really, really fun to watch you grow your social platform, like producing this show, having a podcast, working with the big brands you work with. And, so credits to the team. I know there's people that are watching behind the scenes. They are doing the actual work. You guys are just the pretty faces on the screen that ask questions.
Supermodels. Supermodels.
Yeah, from the whole team. And that's a really credit to great leadership. So wonderful job. And if we can help anybody listening, our bread and butter is to bring an MC host creative in to help the event go great. If that's something that we can help with, let us know.
Please do. Where do they find you online, Billy? And I know you mentioned your podcast. Throw out your podcast real quick. And what's the best place for people to connect with you?
It's hard, right? Because
that is so many places.
This question has gotten more complex.
He's on 8 to 10 hours a day. Complex.
Go here and go here and go here and click the link and do the thing. Yeah. I'm like, well, just go to Billy Boughey on Instagram. Like that's probably the best place. Like if you just find me on Instagram, you can find all the things. You can go to Elevate Experiences Instagram. We're posting a lot of our content, and that's where you'll find our podcast and whatnot there too. So of course, YouTube channel is the best place. That's where we've spent most of our time. Like when the pandemic hit, we decided we're going to go all in on icebreakers for events. So every week we're putting out a different icebreaker on our deal, and somebody can buy our game library, which is $100 for a year, which is really cheap, to have all these different templates and game ideas to use at their events. So that's kind of like a business place I would send you as YouTube, but just personally, just go to Billy Boughey.
I guarantee you that in our show notes and in our post on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you will have links to find all the things you need to know about Billy Boughey.
Well, I need to tell you 20 more then. Let me tell you this one. Let me tell you this one.
Send them to Tessa. She'll post them. Will, any closing thoughts, man?
No, man, Billy, thank you so much for joining us today. Truly, the energy that you bring is toxic in the best possible way. It seeps into the people around you. It is just all consuming. And I know that I'm smiling more genuinely. I'm happier post this conversation than I was walking into it. I guarantee Clark can say that is accurate.
100% feel the same way.
And thank you. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue affecting people's lives as you do. You bring positive energy in a time that we need it the most. Thank you so much.
But you guys know, thank you. It's incredibly humbling to hear, and I'll close with this, Clark, and then I'm sure you'll close us out. But I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago that my college baseball coach had died. Mm-hmm. He was the guy that believed in me most, like did an incredible job of like coaching me up to play professional baseball. And he just passed away. And his daughter called me and said, hey, by his bedside, he wrote on a piece of paper, I want Billy to speak at my funeral. And like, I haven't talked to him in years. And it was so impactful for me. So coming up here in a few weeks, I'm speaking at his funeral at the baseball park and can't wait to share stories about him. And so I think about those that are listening in that are tuned into this is Gary Vaynerchuk had this really powerful moment where a lady rolled up on his car, knocked on his window and said, hey, give me some advice. And he said, you're going to die. And she was like, wait, what? And she realized what he was saying was like, you're going to die. So today, like who can you encourage? Like, who can you inspire? Can you get over yourself enough or the way things were to move into the future? And I would say, that's not just me saying, oh, I've got it all figured out, so follow me. It's like, that is my thesis currently, is like, how do I get over myself? And how do I realize that death is imminent for all, but how do I live fully in the moment? So even in this, like, it's been so much fun to hang with you guys, and you've inspired me just as much, or if not more than I've inspired you. So thank you for letting me be on.
I have nothing else to say, y'all. Thank you for listening to the Reverb Roundtable. If you want more of this amazing wisdom, courage, energy that Billy Boughey has, you got to check out more what he has. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Will. We'll see you next time on the Reverb Roundtable. Tessa's got some important info for you. Here we go. See you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on Reverb Roundtable. Don't forget, if you want notes or any of the links that he talked about in this episode, all you have to do is grab our show notes. Just go to rvrb.cc/podcast, and we can send those directly to your inbox every week. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you next week on Reverb Roundtable.